Okay, so hello, how are you? My name is Peris Ashuran. I'm a lecturer here at SA Ljubljana, and today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks for managing your studio. So how to set up the acoustics and choose which equipment to use. So home studio basics. And basically I would like to encourage you if you have some questions to ask. So I'm going to be talking about some basic things, but this is a wide topic, and if you had some problems with setting something up or anything similar, feel free to ask. Okay, so that's it. So again, ask questions if you had problems with something. I'll try and help. Also, I'm going to give you some links at the end so you can continue and expand knowledge on the internet. If you have some further questions, that would be cool. Okay, so we cannot talk about home studio setting up without talking about some basics about acoustics. So everything else regarding microphones, sound cards, computers, sequencers, Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase, anything else, doesn't really matter if your room or if your studio is not treated properly with some kind of acoustic treatment, of course. So the first rule of acoustics for any newbie audio engineer or studio guy would be this. You know what this is? Yes? So this is the first rule. So this is totally useless and in most cases makes more damage than it helps. So these are these egg cartons or egg packs, however you want to call them. And you always see this, especially in band rehearsal rooms. So if a band has a rehearsal room, they are probably going to have every wall packed with these things, and this is definitely bad. It does nothing, it just messes up. Okay, if you really know what you're doing and you know something about acoustics, in some situations these things might be acceptable for something, but usually what you see is people getting like 50,000 kilos of this and putting it on every wall, on the ceiling, on the floor, in their skirts, I don't know, whatever. So the thing is that this is not so good. Why? Really simple. In acoustics, there are two basic categories, and these are absorbers, like these, and diffusers. We're going to talk about in brief about these two categories. But the thing is that this foamy device here absorbs some frequencies, absorbs some sounds. Basics are really simple. If you have such a foamy device like this one, okay, this is going to absorb only, let's say, high frequencies. So it's going to absorb more high frequencies, it's going to do nothing to the low frequencies. This is similar, only it absorbs much less of the frequency range. So this is going to absorb only extremely high frequencies. So what you're going to do if you put this in your room or in your rehearsal space is you're simply going to kill, let's say, the reflections for the cymbals or for extremely high frequencies, and you're going to be left with all the mess and the noise which goes together with the bass guitar, the kick drum, everything that's basically in the low frequency range. Yeah. So the thing with acoustics in a rehearsal space or in a home project studio or in any studio is to contain the low frequency mess, the noise, and to contain also reflections of other frequencies, and we're going to talk about this in brief, and I'm going to give you some ideas how you can solve this. But for now, this bed. What this does in your room is it simply makes everything sound, let's say, deader, and after like a month, everything begins to fall off the walls, and you magically find them on the floor, and it simply does nothing. I don't know, I guess people started using these it's because they look similar to what's used professionally in studios, you know, that triangle cone devices, which are basically something totally different, but this looks similar, and it's cheap, and I don't know, that's why people started using it. But the point is, first rule, bad. That's it. Okay, so absorbers are devices, or basically the things that you would use to absorb frequencies. Why do you need to absorb frequencies? Because in any room where you have some sound generation device, like in this case speakers, or the drums, or some, let's say, guitar amplifier, this sound exits the speaker, goes to the wall, bounces from the next wall, keeps bouncing in the room, and basically interacts with itself. And this basically creates a muffled, bad sound. We're not going to go into details about phase relationships and so on, but you just have to know that if you have a sound originating in some room, it's in most cases really bad if that sound bounces off the walls and you have a bad reverb, you have a bad echo within that room. So absorbers are devices which are used to absorb these frequencies so they don't bounce off the walls. Okay? In this case, these would be here the bass traps. Okay? So the biggest problem in a room would be a bass trap. Or bass frequencies. This is why you would have bass traps in the corners, and this is the keyword that you can explore more. So bass trap and absorbers. Okay, so simple point, you want to stop reflections, or basically you want to manipulate, you want the reflections to be what you want them to be. In this case, absorbers help. They absorb frequencies, and that's it. So this is also an absorber. This is a foamed absorber. What this, you can use this for, let's say if you have, I don't know, cymbals, and you have a really reflective surface, and you would like to put this in between the cymbal and the reflective surface, so that the cymbal doesn't reflect off the wall and back into the microphone, which is maybe close or above the cymbal. So you would put this to stop this effect. Okay, and of course this also doesn't stop all frequencies, it stops only, let's say, higher frequencies. It does nothing to the bass. The biggest problem is in rooms with the bass, because the only thing that absorbs the bass is the bass traps, and this is what you need to focus on the most. So bass traps, which are a type of an absorber. Okay, so different types of absorbers. This also, let's say, an improvised vocal booth. So it's really popular to record vocals in such a, let's say, dead sounding room where you don't have a lot of reflections, because later in the mix you can do whatever you want with that vocals recording. You can add artificial reverb or whatnot, and these days reverbs are really good. So the point is, usually vocals are recorded in a dead sounding space. Dead meaning no reverb, no reflections. So you can do whatever you want with that vocals recording later. This is a reflection filter, quite clear what it is. If you have a microphone, you have this reflection filter behind it, so that the sound which bounces off the walls doesn't reach the back of the microphone. So this helps to isolate the microphone from the reflections. Actually, this guy is the guy from Sound on Sound magazine, and you can try and Google this. I mean, Sound on Sound magazine is good in general, but they have a really good section about, let's say, home studio help. They have a subcategory which is called, I think, Sound on Sound Home SOS, Home Studio SOS, and every month they basically visit some guy who sent them, please fix my studio, and they go to his studio and they explain, okay, he has this bad, we're going to put absorbers here, for this and this reason, we're going to put a bass trap here, for this and this reason, and if you want to learn about that, this helps a lot. So Sound on Sound Studio SOS or something like that. Okay, so absorbers, more absorbers, you can see here in the walls. Usually it's popular to put absorbers behind the speakers. If you have monitor speakers, put absorbers behind the speakers, because you don't want the sound to go from the speaker to the back wall, and then from the back wall to the front again, so that it basically interacts with the direct sound from the speaker. You don't want this reflected sound joining together with the direct sound, because this creates problems. This is simply not good. So usually, but okay, you cannot just buy these and put them anywhere. You have to explore a bit. Of course, acoustics. You could be talking about acoustics on a dedicated college for 4 years about that. But the point is, if you want to learn something about acoustics just to fix your studio, you can do it quite easily. So, but you still have to explore a bit. Okay. The biggest problem here is this reflected sound of the walls.